Hi, I'm Jonas from WholeBodyChiro. Issues in the pelvis can present in a few different ways. If it's an early sort of emerging problem, often all you might sense is that you're a bit out of kilter. You might feel like your core isn't engaging as well as it should. And if you're in tune with your body, you might even say that I feel like my one leg is longer than the other. If it's more acute, you definitely know about it. Often you get sharp pains in the sacroiliac joints at the back of the pelvis. So a simple activity like standing one leg to put your sock on in the morning, that can cause that sharp grabbing pain. Sometimes even just walking, particularly walking upstairs as you're climbing the stairs and put that big load through one hip or sacroiliac joint, that can cause the sharp grabbing pain, or turning over in bed. That rotational movement of the pelvis often causes a sharp pain as well. So things that can cause the pelvis to start to get issues could be something like a trauma. Say that you're falling down the stairs and you get the big load on the pelvis. That can cause that sort of rotation of the pelvis, or repetitive uneven loads of the pelvis from postures, for example. So say that you're always crossing your legs the same way when you sit down, that can throw the pelvis out. Or you come home at the end of the day and like to curl up on the couch with your leg tucked under like this, that repetitive load on the pelvis can throw it out. Pregnancy is another thing. So in pregnancy you get a hormone called relaxin that makes these joints in the pelvis really flexible, just to allow the baby to get some give as it goes through the birth canal. So after delivery, as that hormone starts to drain out of the system and these joints start to stiffen up again, if you have a habit of sitting breastfeeding with a baby supported by your leg like this, that repetitive load on the pelvis can cause it to stiffen up out of healthy alignment. Sport is another thing. So say that you're a footy player, always kicking the ball with the same foot, always causing that same rotation in the pelvis. Or a fast bowler in cricket with that repetitive rotation of your trunk tugging and pulling on the pelvis. In fact, there's been an interesting study in regards to the pelvis with cricket players. So it was done in New Zealand. They had a club of 90 healthy fit guys without back issues, and they wanted to check how well they were able to engage the core muscles. So they put some electrodes on the stomach, on the transverse abdominis, and some on the deltoid to see how well they engage and what order they engage. They asked them to quickly lift the arm like this. And what's supposed to happen is that the core should engage first, so you have a stabilized trunk and center of the body, and then you move your arm on that stabilized center. But for quite a few of these athletes, 17 out of 90, so almost 20%, had a faulty activation pattern. So the first thing they contracted was the shoulder muscles before they had a chance to pre-activate and stabilize the core. And we know from other studies, if you leave it like that, it's just a matter of time before you start to develop back issues, because you keep loading your spine when it's not ready or stabilized and protected to receive that load. So anyway, they left these athletes for 6 months, got them back in and reassessed them, and they all still had the same issues. So this problem didn't resolve by itself. So they had a bit of a closer look and discovered that all of them had issues around the pelvis, like point tenderness along the sacroiliac joint, lots of localized muscle guarding, maybe even a difference in leg length due to those muscles cramping up, or the positioning of the sacroiliac joint being without affecting the hip socket. So based on that, they adjusted the pelvis, so they worked on realigning that, and then they put the electrodes back on and asked them to lift the arm again. And on average, they had a 40% earlier activation of the core. So their theory of what's going on there is that when you have issues around your pelvis, you get these big muscles like your QL, quadratus lumborum, that runs from the ilium up to the lower ribs. That craps up just to protect the guard area. On the expense of smaller muscles, like the muscles that run between the ilium and the sacrum to sense the alignment of the sacroiliac joint. So they start to drop the tone, so they go to sleep and communicate less to the brain. So their theory is that when you lift the arm quickly, the brain knows that we should pre-engage and stabilize the core. But then they need to check on the alignment of the pelvis to make sure it's safe to tug on the pelvis. And it doesn't get a clear signal of that because of those positions and it's not operating properly. and that's what creates that hesitation in engaging the core. But after adjustment, in the adjustment, those position sensors get stirred up to fire at a higher rate. So once again, when you're planning that movement pattern of lifting the arm, the brain will check down to make sure that the sacroiliac joint is in a safe position, and now they're communicating properly, so they get the clear picture of what's going on, and bang, you can engage the core more the way it's supposed to. Pretty interesting, eh? So if you have had long-term issues in the pelvis and you keep grabbing randomly and it doesn't behave the way it's supposed to, it becomes very important to make sure that those position sensors are working up and firing properly. Now, if this has been an issue that's gone on for some time and the core hasn't been engaging properly for some time, it also becomes important to do some exercises to rebuild core strength, so you can have the strength to support the pelvis and the lower back properly. And if you have had recurring habits, like always sitting down at the office, crossing your legs the same way, you obviously want to address any imbalances that might have caused. If you're always rotating that left leg over, the glutes on that side might be more stretched and flexible, so then you always get the uneven pull on the right versus the left that can throw the pelvis out of alignment. So there's lots of muscles around the pelvis that you can check for symmetry in flexibility, like the glutes, hamstrings, adductors and so forth. Then other than that, if you have these habits that keeps throwing out, obviously you want to address that. So for example, if you're always sitting down on the same foot on the couch, maybe change where you sit, to sit in a recliner at home instead, where you can get the legs up supported evenly and you also square in the way you sit. If you drive a lot and don't use the cruise control, try to use that a bit more so you don't have to reach that right leg for the accelerator and the brake. You can have a bit more symmetrical position in the way you sit there. If you sleep on your side and your leg is always hanging over, pulling the pelvis around into rotation, and getting something like a pillow between your knees to support that top leg so it doesn't drop down and cause that rotation of the pelvis. It's more squared up and balanced. That can be another nice little trick. So a lot of things we can do to help to support the function of your pelvis and get it back to being able to behave properly, to engage your core. And if you've had issues for some time, don't hesitate, just come in, we do a thorough assessment, we give you some personalized advice to get on top of your issues around the pelvis, so you can feel supported, strong and stable, and get out to live that active, fun lifestyle without having to second guess whether you're going to throw your back out again. So yeah, welcome in to WholeBodyChiro.